When I first met Ken, I thought I'd finally gotten lucky in love. My name's Alicia Martin, I'm 33, and I've just landed a solid job as a regional marketing coordinator in Atlanta. I wasn't looking for love, but there he was, charming, thoughtful, with that disarming smile that made you forget your name. He asked the right questions, remembered the tiniest details, and made me feel like the most important person in the room. The first few weeks were like a movie. Ken sent flowers to my office, cooked me dinner on rainy nights, and knew how to make my bad days better with a hug and a joke. He wasn't like the others. He never rushed anything, never demanded more than I was willing to give. We took long walks, had deep conversations about the future, and slowly built what I believed was a strong, trusting relationship. For a full year, he was perfect. We moved in together after 9 months, into a cozy 2-bedroom condo I was renting near Midtown. I paid most of the bills, but he said he'd start contributing soon once his business plans took off. I didn't push it. He always made me feel safe. I even opened up to him about my ex, a man who left me bruised in more ways than one. Ken listened quietly, pulled me close, and whispered, "That will never be your life again. Not with me." I believed him. Then one morning, everything shattered. I woke up to silence. His side of the bed was cold. His phone was gone. At first, I thought he went out for a run. He did that sometimes. But hours passed. I called. No answer. I checked the kitchen. No keys, no wallet. Then I noticed the closet. His clothes? Gone. The drawers were empty. His cologne, toothbrush, shoes, all of it vanished. I tore through the apartment in disbelief. My jewelry box? Empty. The vintage sapphire earrings my grandmother gave me gone. My silver watch missing. I opened the safe in the closet. It was unlocked. The stack of emergency cash I kept, about $1,500, vanished too. My stomach flipped. Shaking, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. I stared at the screen in disbelief. My $100,000 in savings, money I had carefully built over 8 years, was gone. Transferred in 5 different transactions over 2 days. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The condo lease was in my name, and within a week, I got an eviction notice. Ken hadn't paid the utilities in months. I had trusted him with everything. Now I was left with nothing, no money, no home, no one to call. I tried reaching out to my parents, but their response was cold. "We told you not to rush into things." I knew they were right, but that didn't make it hurt less. So I started sleeping in my car. A black Honda Civic that suddenly became my only sense of security. I parked near grocery stores, used gas stations to clean up, and ate fast food to survive. The nights were cold, the days long. Every time I thought about Ken, my body would tense with a mix of rage and heartbreak. I couldn't believe someone I loved could do something like this. After about 3 weeks, I hit a wall. I was tired, physically and emotionally. I stared at my cracked phone screen one night and scrolled through my contacts. That's when I saw Kayla's name. Kayla and I had been friends in college, thick as thieves, until a falling out over something stupid tore us apart. I hadn't talked to her in years, but I was desperate. I sent her a message I never thought I'd write. "I'm in trouble. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm sorry for everything. Please help." She replied within 10 minutes. "Come over." No questions asked. When I showed up at her doorstep, I looked nothing like the woman she used to know. Messy hair, puffy eyes, clothes 2 days unwashed. But she didn't flinch. She opened the door, pulled me into a hug, and told me, "You're safe now." And just like that, for the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Not because things were fixed, but because I wasn't alone anymore. Living with Kayla felt like being handed a life raft in the middle of a storm. She gave me the guest room, a warm blanket, and a level of kindness I hadn't realized I still deserved. In return, I promised her I'd get back on my feet. And I meant it. The first job I found was at a coffee shop just a few blocks away. It was minimum wage and messy, but I didn't care. I needed a routine. I needed something that didn't remind me of Ken. I started every morning grinding beans and pouring lattes with fake smiles, but each cup helped me feel like I was rebuilding, one tip jar at a time. Kayla was a godsend. She made dinner most nights, listened when I broke down, and never once made me feel like a burden. But even as my hands got used to the rhythm of work, my mind couldn't stop replaying the betrayal. Ken's name lived in my head like a virus. Every morning I wondered, where was he? What was he doing with my money? That question started to consume me. One night, after closing up the cafe, I sat on Kayla's worn-out couch and pulled up an old contact from a legal forum I used to browse during a brief obsession with true crime podcasts. His name was Victor Hammond. He was a licensed private investigator based out of Georgia, known for discretion and results. I texted him, "Can you find someone who's gone missing with a lot of my money?" His response came quick. "I'll need everything you've got, name, photo, dates, possible aliases. My rate starts at $2,500. My heart sank. I didn't have that kind of money. I barely had anything, but I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. Kayla saw the email thread the next morning while I was in the kitchen, and her face darkened. "Alicia, don't do this. He's gone. Don't spend what little you have left chasing someone who's never going to give you closure." "I'm not chasing closure," I said quietly. "I'm chasing justice." Still, I nodded like I'd listen. But that night, I signed up for a new credit card. Introductory limit, $3,000. Enough. 2 weeks later, Victor emailed me with results that made my blood boil. Ken, now going by Brent Foster, was living in a condo in Tampa, Florida. Not just living, flourishing. He was photographed at a high-end steakhouse, driving a silver BMW, and wearing what looked suspiciously like my grandmother's sapphire pendant around his smug neck. He'd rented a penthouse suite in a building overlooking the water, under a new identity. One photo showed him lounging beside a rooftop pool, champagne in hand, with 2 women in bikinis laughing beside him. I wanted to scream. He hadn't just moved on, he'd upgraded his life with the future I had spent years building. Every dollar in his new life was mine. Every smile on his face was funded by the sweat off my back. I forwarded the photos to Kayla, and she responded with just one word. Damn. But I didn't want sympathy. I wanted revenge. That's when I thought of Sarah Chin. Sarah and I weren't exactly friends. We'd crossed paths in college. She was sharp, gorgeous, and knew how to read people like books. She once told me over drinks that her gift was knowing exactly what a man wanted to hear and making him beg to believe it. Back then, I'd brushed it off. Now I saw it differently. I hadn't spoken to Sarah in over 6 years, but I still had her number. I sent her a text with no context. "You once said you were good at making men fall for lies. I have a job for you." She called within the hour, her voice just as smooth and amused as I remembered. Well. I wondered when karma would need me. I laid it all out, Ken, the theft, the fake identity, the money. She was quiet until I finished. "And you want me to what exactly?" "Meet him. Make him trust you. Get close enough to find out how he's hiding the money. Then we take it." There was a pause. Then she laughed softly. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack." "What's in it for me?" she asked, always practical. 25% of whatever we get back. 30. I hesitated. Fine. Sarah exhaled, the way someone does when they're already picturing the outfit they'll wear to the first meeting. "Text me his photo and what you know. I'll take it from here." That night, I stared at my ceiling while Kayla slept in the next room. I knew what I was doing was dangerous, maybe even reckless. But I also knew I had nothing left to lose, and everything he stole to gain back. For the first time since Ken vanished, I didn't feel powerless. I felt like I was moving the pieces again. And this time, I wasn't playing to protect him. I was playing to destroy him. Sarah worked fast, almost too fast. Within a week of arriving in Tampa, she sent me a selfie with Ken in the background, sipping on a cocktail at a rooftop bar. He looked smug as ever, sunglasses on, arm draped over the back of the seat like the king of some stolen castle. I stared at that image for a long time, My fingers clenched so tightly around my phone that I thought the screen might crack. "He's easy," Sarah texted later that night. "Narcissist. Desperate to be admired. Already told me he runs international investments and owns 2 tech startups. I'll have access soon." And she did. She spent the next few weeks playing the perfect fantasy. They went out to expensive restaurants, weekend trips to the Keys, even wine tastings where she pretended to care about the subtle notes of overpriced bottles. She flattered him, listened to his made-up business strategies, and made him feel powerful. But in the background, she worked. Sarah convinced Ken that she was ready to build something together, that her trust fund was coming through soon, and she needed to temporarily move money through a secure account.
He didn't hesitate.
According to her updates, he handed over everything. Login credentials, passwords, even a couple of security questions she picked up casually during pillow talk. We had agreed on a fake account set up by Victor, the same PI who found him. Every penny from Ken's accounts, my money, would be redirected there. Sarah sent me screenshots as the numbers moved. $38,000 from one account, $21,000 from another, a few smaller transfers trickling in until the total hit just under $97,000. I couldn't breathe when I saw that final number. Ken had no idea. He was too busy posing for Instagram stories in his rented Lamborghini, still convinced Sarah was falling for him. I kept waiting for the right moment to confront him, to make him watch everything unravel. But Sarah said wait. She wanted one final move, something that would end the game perfectly. "We'll vanish with the money the same day he takes me to sign a lease on a new penthouse he wants to impress me with," she told me. "Let him taste the dream before I rip it away." It sounded poetic. It felt like justice. And then she disappeared. No texts. No calls. No status updates. I thought maybe she was just lying low, so I waited. 2 days. Then 5. Then a full week. I started to panic. I messaged, called, and emailed. Nothing. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her social media accounts were gone. I tried reaching out to mutual contacts from college. None of them had heard from her. The last message I got from her was a simple, almost done winky face, right before the final transfer. Then, I tried logging into the fake account we had set up. Password invalid. Access denied. My stomach dropped like I'd stepped off a cliff. I called Victor, who had been monitoring everything from the sidelines, and asked him to trace the account. He called back 2 hours later with a voice full of quiet disbelief. She rerouted the funds. Transferred them through a chain of shell accounts and crypto wallets. Clean exit. I think she planned this from the start. I couldn't speak. Sarah, the one person I trusted to help me get justice, had stolen everything. Again. It felt like a cruel joke. First Ken. Now Sarah. I had trusted her. I had let myself believe we were on the same side. 2 women getting revenge on a liar. But I was the one who played. Again. She blocked me everywhere. No explanation. No smug message. Just gone. I sat on Kayla's front porch that night in silence. She brought me a cup of tea, the same way she had the night I arrived with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't even ask what happened. She just sat beside me as I stared at the stars and wondered if I was cursed. It wasn't just about the money. It was about being made a fool again. About believing in people who only saw me as a stepping stone. But as the numbness wore off, something else settled in. Determination. I wasn't going to be the woman who cried and curled up in defeat. Not again. I'd come too far. I had nothing left to steal, which meant I had nothing left to fear. If Sarah thought she could vanish without consequence, she had no idea who she'd just crossed. Ken betrayed me out of selfishness. Sarah betrayed me out of strategy. Now it was my turn. And this time, I'd make sure the ending was mine to write. It took me 3 days to stop shaking and start thinking clearly. Rage will burn you out fast if you don't aim it right. And this time, I wasn't just angry. I was done being everyone's stepping stone. I didn't have much, but I had one thing Sarah had overlooked: a memory. Back in college, Sarah was almost expelled for hacking into the university's record system to change a professor's gradebook. She'd bragged about it once at a party, laughing like it was just some wild prank. But I remembered more than the joke. I remembered names, dates, the professor involved, even the old message board thread where someone hinted at who was behind it. So I started digging. With a little help from Victor, I found what I needed. The professor was still teaching, now at a different university, and still had emails archived from that semester. Turns out, the university had kept the incident under wraps to avoid embarrassment, but the proof was there. Enough to cost Sarah her current job. She was now an executive assistant at a high-end tech firm in New York. I sent her a message from a new number. Nice new title. It would be a shame if the firm found out about that grade tampering incident. I've got the records and an old faculty member ready to talk. She didn't respond. I sent another. I'm not asking for all of it. Just my share, $70,000. You keep the rest. This ends now or it escalates. 10 minutes later, I got a reply.
Fine.
Give me 48 hours. 48 hours later, the money landed in my account. Clean, anonymous transfer. No name. No apology. Just silence. I didn't care. I'd won. But it didn't last long. Exactly 1 week after the deposit, things started getting weird. I began receiving emails confirming online orders I hadn't placed. Expensive electronics, random home appliances, even bulk orders of vitamins. Then came the credit alerts. 3 new loan applications in my name, all denied. Someone was trying to wreck my credit again. Then came the threats. Unmarked packages started arriving at Kayla's apartment. One had dead flowers inside. Another contained a typed letter with just 4 words. You shouldn't have played. Kayla was scared. I was furious. The police showed up the next day. Someone had filed a complaint linking Kayla's address to a mail fraud ring. But after questioning, they quickly realized we weren't suspects. We were targets. The officer who led the conversation pulled me aside before leaving. Have you ever heard the name Kenneth Dunn? He asked.
My heart jumped. Yes.
Why? We've been watching him for a while. Seems like your case may connect to something much bigger. It turned out Ken wasn't just a charming thief. He was running full-scale refund scams, buying and reselling stolen goods, and laundering money through fake shell companies. I was just one of dozens of women he'd conned over the years. Some financially, some emotionally, most both. 2 weeks later, Ken was arrested at a luxury spa outside Miami. He was charged with multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. I watched the footage of his arrest on a local news site. He was in a robe, hair slicked back, sunglasses dangling from his shirt. He didn't even look surprised. It felt surreal. All those nights, I cried over him. All the shame. All the silence. And now here he was, handcuffed and barefoot, being loaded into a police cruiser for the world to see. The justice system would handle him now. But the real closure wasn't in the headlines or the money. It was the fact that I had finally stopped being the woman things happened to and became the one who decided how the story would end. The trial took longer than anyone expected. Ken's defense team tried every trick in the book, delaying motions, questioning evidence, even claiming identity confusion. But it didn't work. There were too many victims, too many bank records, and too many lies. The prosecution brought receipts, testimony, surveillance footage, and digital trails that told the full story of his crimes. Every smirk he gave in court chipped away as more victims took the stand, sharing how he'd used charm, deceit, and fake names to ruin lives. I didn't testify. I didn't need to. My statement was already part of the file, and I knew seeing me up there might give him one last hit of satisfaction. I refused to give him that. After 6 months, the verdict came in.
Guilty.
Multiple counts: wire fraud, grand larceny, conspiracy, identity theft. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. No parole for at least 7. I watched the live stream from Kayla's laptop. When the judge read the sentence, Ken barely blinked. That hollow calm he always wore was finally being returned to him by the system he thought he could outsmart. I closed the laptop when it was over. Not in celebration, not with tears. Just a quiet exhale. I didn't hear from Sarah again. She didn't check in when Ken was arrested. Didn't follow up after the trial. She didn't need to. I had made it clear our last transaction was the end. I could have gone after her for the rest of the money. I had the blackmail material, but I didn't. Because in the end, I realized something, fighting for revenge, chasing every dollar, twisting myself into knots to win, it all came at a cost. And I wasn't willing to lose myself again. That money wasn't just stolen. It had become a symbol of everything I lost: trust, safety, belief in people. But the truth was, no amount of money could fix what I had to rebuild inside. I had nearly become just like the people who hurt me, obsessed with control, strategy, and power.
Sarah taught me that.
She looked like an ally, but she was just a mirror of Ken in heels. I wanted to believe we were a team, but she was just better at playing the long game. I cut her out for good. And Kayla? She never once asked for anything in return. Not when I showed up on her doorstep with nothing. Not when I secretly used a credit card. Not when strange packages started arriving or cops showed up or my moods got dark and sharp. She just stayed, steady, kind, loyal. The kind of person I didn't know still existed until I had nothing left to offer but a mess of broken pieces. She once told me, "You don't owe me anything, Alicia. We're friends. That's it. No deals. No angles." Now that my finances were finally stable, loans cleared, credit repaired, savings cautiously growing, I offered to repay her every penny she spent on me. She just rolled her eyes and handed me a slice of pizza. "You already paid me back," she said. "You survived." That moment stayed with me. I moved out of Kayla's apartment a few months after the trial, into a quiet place near the edge of the city, small, but mine. I picked every lamp, every dish, every color on the walls with intention. No shared accounts, no secrets, no ghosts in the closet. Just clean space, sunlight, and the sound of my peace. I started journaling again, taking long walks without checking over my shoulder, trusting my own instincts, not because I had to be paranoid, but because I finally learned how to listen to myself. Sometimes, late at night, I still wonder what Ken thinks about from his cell. I wonder if he remembers the money, the lies, the women he left in pieces. But then I remind myself, it doesn't matter. His story is no longer mine to carry.
And Sarah?
I don't hate her. I just don't think about her. I focus on what I do have now: freedom, clarity, and the quiet strength that comes from surviving a storm and deciding to build something better after. I thought revenge would bring closure, but it was letting go that gave me peace. The past didn't destroy me. It taught me exactly who I never want to become. And for that, I'm finally free.